Hey guys, we're going to dive into a bit of flow bench testing with some of our turbo manifolds, some of the different variations that we have, and help explain some of the things that's going on with the turbo system with different cars. We've got on display here our Evo compact V-band, low mount V-band, and we also have our Mitsubishi Evo Big Daddy. We've also got it with our adapter to run the smaller turbos. We have a 1JZ VVTi direct replacement. We've got the factory unit there as well to also test. We've also got our V-band version, a couple of different rotating assemblies on the table. We've got our new 1JZ VVTi turbine housing here, showing a bit of a comparison with the factory unit. We also have a Greddy T88 33D here, just to discuss again compressors, turbos, and what those effects are on different fuels and different applications. So we're going to stick them on the flow bench. We're going to go through some numbers. We're going to have a look at what happens with flowing 3 runners from a factory manifold to our 3 runners, just so you can see some of the differences between the stock manifold, our manifolds, different variations of our manifold, and what happens on the flow bench. So, all right, let's get stuck into it. So what we've done here is we're using plasticine, and what you do is you try and create a soft radius feeding the port or the part you're flowing, and that gives a more accurate representation of what the part will flow when it's connected to its other ancillary things, such as the turbo or the head or whatever else you're flow bench testing. And so you just try and create a soft radius. When you're flow benching stuff, you can actually hear sharp edges. So if I was flowing this without anything attached, you would actually hear the turbulence, and it sort of makes more of a screaming noise. Whereas if you put a soft radius on it, it becomes a smoother sound. We just do this with all our testing to try and be as accurate as possible. All right, I'm just going to run this up now so you can see what's going on. In here, it'll show a corrected CFM, which basically through a calculation works out what it would be at 28 inches. We normally test to 15 inches just because instead of thrashing the air pumps, but either way we'll run at 15 inches of vacuum with a scale to show what it would be at 28 inches. All right, so this one here, we're now testing the same manifold, but with the ported turbo flange that is port matched to the turbine housing. Alright, so as you can see, porting the flange really nets no gain. I think they're flowing about the same, but we'll stick a stock one on there and see how that goes. Alright, so we've just got the stock one bolted up here. Again, try and get the plasticine as close to the edge without restricting the airflow, because you don't want any steps at all. Just make sure it's a nice smooth radius to be as accurate as possible. There's no point doing testing if it's not accurate, or at least consistent with the test before. All right, let's fire this up. All right, so another thing is we're flowing them all with the wastegate closed. The stock manifold was about 235, about that 236 CFM. So what we'll do now is we'll flow the manifolds by themselves to see what they flow with the stock turbo flange, ported turbo flange, and we'll also throw our V-band version on, which is a low mount. And just for general info, we'll throw our high mount V-band manifold on there to see what that flows. All right guys, so what we're doing now is going to just flow the manifold as a whole. Sometimes a bit hard to understand what's going on here because we've just seen that we've flowed 3 ports with our manifold and it flows 300 CFM. I know just from testing we're not going to get 600 CFM out the flange because there's other things that restrict it. But we'll put this on there, see what all 6 flowing at the same time nets us, and again we'll test that with a couple of different VVTi manifolds to see what the results are. All right, let's see how we go. We'll call that 397, and then let's change manifold and see how it goes. All right, so this is our unported direct replacement manifold. I've just got plasticine in there. I was just testing some other stuff, but yeah, it's all seals when it's on there, so no problems. So we just fitted those up. All right, let's see how it goes. So we'll say 378, 380 total flow with the unported flange. And now we'll grab our ported one, which I'll just grab. Hopefully that doesn't fall, just one moment. All right, so what we did is we've ported this flange out, and I'll show you that in a bit of other footage. So that's the exact ID of the turbine housing. So that's been port matched. So let's see how this goes. All right, so again, this is exact same manifold as the one we just tested, but we have increased the port on the turbo side to the exact same dimensions as the turbo itself now. Again, remembering that the turbo itself is the part that flows the least out of the system, which we'll show you some of that as well. This will be interesting what this flows. All right, let's go. right, so that just went 478, 480, which is a big increase in flow once again. What we'll do now is we'll flow the V-band version, which is the same design. It's just got a different interface here for V-band turbos to suit the Garrett G-Series internally wastegated items. And again, these allow you to run your heat shields on them. So for the OEM style or OEM plus style builds. All right, next manifold, let's go. All right, so this is our V-band version. It's the same manifold design. It's just got a different flange system here. Again, this is to suit 50. This is 50 millimeter ID, so it's actually approximately the same size as the other ones. But we'll put a gauge inside it and show you all the turbo flange sizes as well. So this is 50 mil ID. A Garrett turbo is 55. So if you do want to go to town, you could probably weld it up or port it. The reason it is 50 and not 55 is because the factory turbo is around 49. So if we made this bigger, the casting and design would not work with both. But this does allow you to run a V-band turbo. You can use the ring system to mount any of the off-the-shelf Tile, Precision, Garrett, Turbo Smart, things like that. And some people do put external wastegates on these as well. This should flow pretty much the same. But again, I think this is 50 millimeters, whereas the other ones are 49. So we'll see how it goes. So that was 485. So yeah, the same amount if you poured out the original one. Again, just some basic info. The engine, when it's firing, is firing one cylinder at a time. So you're not firing 6 bunches of exhaust gas simultaneously. So that's why we did that test with the 3 cylinders flowing it to show what the difference was. All right, I think now we're going to flow the high mount 1JZ VVTi manifold. All right guys, so this is our 1JZ VVTi high mount manifold. A lot of great success with these ones. Very high flowing, great response. This manifold has gone over 900 horsepower with a great power band. Plenty of drifters use these. So let's see how many CFM it flows. This one flows 450 CFM. Again, this was designed primarily for, the 300 kilowatt to 500 kilowatt guys. We've seen this over 900 horsepower. So just to give you a bit of context about how much the manifold flows, especially with the stock frame guys, what the manifold is that holding you back? I don't believe so. So 400 CFM, we saw at 380 CFM for a stock manifold. And this one here makes 450, and this one's gone 900 horsepower. Let's go back into it and see what else we can find out. All right guys, so here we have it's a test gauge. So this one we use for G25, just for people to be able to check turbo bore sizes on our turbine housings that we make. And we can also use this as it happens to be pretty much the same internal diameter or diameter as the turbo flange. So this is a stock Toyota manifold, and I will quickly grab a vernier. All right, so a G25, you're looking at 48 millimeters on the turbine, and so here the factory manifold is 46 millimeters. Our one, I think, is approximately the same. It's 45 millimeters. Again, that just allows for placement of the turbo without causing a step whilst the air is coming out of the manifold into the turbo. Then you have our ported one, which is 48. Here's a housing which we've cut up. It's 48. It's 48 millimeters as well, so that's the ported one. And then we've got our V-band one, I think, which is about, that's 49. 49 might be 50 somewhere there, but yeah, 49 millimeters. And then again, our V-band, which is the same again. All right, what we can see is the factory design isn't ideal. That's the reason why we made our manifold in the first place. And another thing to note is the factory exhaust port size on a 1JZ VVTi head is remarkably small. It's by far the smallest port size of the JZ family, and thus that's the reason, one of the reasons we went with the smaller runner size. And as many of our customers have seen, the response that they have running these setups, again with our turbo recommendations. Let's go a bit further into the turbine housing. So this is the turbine housing that we cut up to measure like what the best flowing outcome is with this AR. So let me just pull this thing apart, and then I can show you what's actually happening inside the turbo. As you just saw, the inlet to the turbo is 47, 48, and at the beginning of the scroll, which is just here, you're looking at 30, 33 millimeters. There's more to it than just putting on a flow bench and testing. The turbo, in terms of compression and increasing the velocity to drive the turbine wheel, it has to reduce in size to have that effect. A very rudimentary test, we will flow bench a stock housing, because the factory turbine wheel on a 1JZ VVTi is almost identical to a G25 turbine wheel, and we are releasing a 1JZ bolt-on turbocharger, which will have the option of a G25 turbine wheel size. So we do have something that we can, an engineered turbine housing to suit higher horsepower applications and the Garrett turbine wheels, and we can test the OEM turbine housing to suit the Toyota turbine wheels. So we can put that on the flow bench. It's not the be-all and end-all of testing an accurate way to test it, but it is something that's rudimentary, and we can get some numbers off there just to show there is a difference, quite a large difference that occurs. Here is a 1JZ, the turbine housing that we've cut up, and so we've put that on the flow bench and tested it with the manifolds. And then one of the things that we try to educate people with is the largest restriction of a turbo system is the turbo itself, the turbine wheel, the turbine shape, and the turbine size. So you've got the AR, which is the size or the flow characteristics of the turbine housing, and the turbine wheel as well. So it just happens that the 1JZ VVTi turbine wheel, here's our little plug gauge, so it's a G25. It happens to be roughly the same size, I think within about 1 millimeter of the Garrett. So this one here is our new product. This hasn't been released yet, but it will be very shortly. This has our own AR, which you know, we don't disclose, but this one here is machined for a G25 turbine wheel. And then over here we have a G30 turbine wheel, so there is a plug gauge for it. Actually, I will just grab it, just one moment. Here's our G30. That's for the G30 housing. So we will have G30 660s, G3700s, G25 660s and other options. But again, this is just about seeing what the Toyota one does versus ones with the same size diameter outlet, but with a larger AR, what that does in terms of flow. So again, this is not the correct way to test turbine housing and turbine flow. You do that on a pump stand, on a very expensive piece of equipment or a facility to measure that. But this is what we have available with our flow bench. Thanks to Dave for lending us this Tomei dump. This will allow us to bolt the turbine housing effectively up to the flow bench. So we can just put that on, a couple of screws, and we can suck the turbine housing. Now, what we've done here is we will test it again with the wastegate closed, and we've put some bell mouths onto each one just to allow a bit more accurate and consistent flow. And since we know that the turbine housing is the restriction, not the port size, some of these bell mouths are slightly smaller, slightly larger, but we won't have any effect. Just to prove this, we've put the largest bell mouth on the stock housing and the smallest bell mouth on the largest housing. So again, you'll see with the testing that doesn't actually cause any effect, because as you've seen here, it necks down very quickly. So a couple of millimeters on the bell mouth doesn't have any effect on the net result. All right, again, I will preface, this is not the way you should be testing a turbine housing, but it's with the equipment that we have to give you some indication of what happens with turbine flow or the choke of the turbine housing itself. Again, you've both got the same diameters. We're sealing the wastegate on both of them, and the bearing side is sealed on all of them, okay? We'll hold the flapper closed whilst it's being tested. It is being sucked out the dump, so it will try and pull the gate open, but we will hold that closed and you'll see that on the flow bench. All right, so we'll start with the Toyota turbine housing, and then we will try the ARTEC G25 and see what the difference is. All right, let's go. So if you look at the CFM, I'm going to close the wastegate. So that was 80 CFM. All right, let's try our one. So now we've got the G25 ARTEC turbine housing. So it danced around a little bit there, but we'll call it about 102, 103 CFM. All right, let's put the G30 one on and see what happens with that. right, so that was, we'll call it 108, dancing around a bit there as well. Why is there not much difference between a G25 and a G30? Well, obviously there is still the certain diameter of the AR under atmospheric or vacuum, whereas pressurized air, you're going to have a far greater volume of air going through that same passage. So there's a quick test of 3 housings. All right, so again, very rudimentary test, but that was showing what the difference with an AR does in terms of increasing flow. So you've seen from the manifold testing, say you've got 300, 350 to 450 CFM or 500 CFM. These turbine housings with nothing in them were flowing 80 and about 103. So it's 30% increase in flow on this flow bench. Again, this is not the correct way, it's just what equipment we have to show there is an increase of flow with the AR being changed. So now what we're going to do is have a look at the turbine wheel and look how that affects back pressure as well. CT26 Toyota turbine wheel. This is G25 550, G25 660. Then you've also got things like fuel. There's no point putting a compressor wheel on a car that you're boost limited.